Welcome to Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Homestead Coffee Talk. Grab your cup of coffee, tea, water, whatever it is that you like to hydrate with in the morning, and let's chat about 3 ways you can bring things into perspective when they're really feeling out of control. If you've spent any amount of time at all watching the news, listening to the radio, talking to your friends or family, a lot of really heavy topics have probably come up. You've probably had conversations about the health crisis or wild weather patterns that have been happening in strange places, food shortages, inflation, supply chain issues. All of these topics have a tendency to be on the forefront of everyone's mind. And all of these things are things that we can't control. So when we're constantly listening and talking and ruminating on these types of items, it can be really easy to get sucked into a negative downhill spiral where you're starting to feel unmotivated and like it's hard to do the things that you know you should be doing. It's easy to feel like you just don't want to do any sort of planning and that you're just gonna wait until the spring and hibernate for the winter and hope everything just turns out better. It's especially hard this time of year in the winter because a lot of us are dealing with colder temperatures, rain, wind. We're indoors a lot more. We just had daylight savings time, so the nights are longer. We're having a lot more darkness, and that can feel kind of like it's closing in or a little bit on the oppressive side. So it's really easy to start feeling unmotivated and to just want to hole up and hibernate for the winter. But today I want to talk to you about how we can kind of get out of that funk where we're feeling unmotivated and like we just don't have the energy to move forward. The first thing I want us to think about is looking at what we're in control of. We can't control the big things that are happening within the course of the world. We can't control if there's a food shortage at the grocery store. We can't control if there's inflation. We can't control supply chain issues. Those are all things that are outside of our locus of control. But what is within my locus of control is what I'm doing on the homestead, what decisions I'm making, how I'm working and trying to improve myself, my skills, and what it is that I want to be doing. And those are all things that I do have control over. So the first thing I need to do is really take a look at what is within my locus of control and what do I need to let go of. I'm not saying don't be informed about things, but I am saying that maybe we don't need to spend as much time worrying about or ruminating about those things that we can't control. So what time am I putting into doing something constructive for the homestead? Because that's where I can make decisions that are going to matter and that are going to impact my life and my family in the future. The first way that I can start to bring things into perspective once I've established what is within my control is to do some reflection. Self-reflection is amazingly important and it can be extremely motivating as well. So take stock of where you're at. Think back over the last year. What are some accomplishments that you've had? What are some things that you've done really well and that have worked for you? What are some things that maybe were on your list that you wanted to do but you weren't able to get to? And what are some things that maybe you tried but it just didn't really work out for you and you might want to change the direction that you're going? Were you able to start a garden? Were you able to maybe get some things started in a container? Did you build a bed or two? Were you able to start an orchard, or did you at least plot out a spot for an orchard? Did you maybe try a new plant for the first time this year? What are some wins that you had? Let me know in the comments below. I would love for us to celebrate some successes that you have had over the course of the last year. Once you've taken stock of where you're at, then you can go ahead and go on to step number 2, which is to make a plan. So once you know what you have been doing that's worked really well and maybe the direction that you want to go, now you can start planning for the future. And this is what gets me really excited. So after I've taken that time for self-reflection to be able to make a plan and dream about the future and what I want to have happen during the course of the next year. So if you're focused for the next year, maybe you want to work on your garden, think a little bit about your space. Do you have an area set aside for your garden? Did you already begin setting up some things for your garden? Do you need to maybe put in some raised beds or get some soil in so that you can enhance the beds that you have? Are you wanting to do more of a no-dig method? What is your plan for your garden space? And here's what I know for sure. There's more than one way to do things, and whichever way you decide to do it, you're probably going to find things that you like and things that you want to change the next year. And that's perfectly fine. We want to be able to learn and grow and change. And I think when we get stagnant and we don't want to change, that's when we have more difficulty. So looking at your garden area, thinking about what tools do you have? So if you were to go out and look at your garden tools, did you notice something over the past year that maybe you didn't have? Are you moving from an apartment space where you did container gardening and now you're going to be moving to a homestead? Do you need to upgrade your tools to things that you're going to use in a raised bed? What kind of tools might you want to look at investing in over the course of the winter? Think about your seeds. I love January when the brand new seed catalogs come out and I can look at all of the different items that are in the catalog, and usually I find a few things that are not realistic for me to grow, but I love dreaming about it and looking at them and just getting excited about all of the new seeds. So it's not too early to start thinking, what might you want to plant next year? And what might you be looking for when those seed catalogs come? And then of course, what do you have available for seed starting? Are you going to be able to get your seeds started indoors? Are you planning to start everything outdoors? Just start thinking through some of that plan. If you're looking at having an orchard, do you have something that you've already begun to set up? Or are you looking at some trees that you might want to plant during the next year? Do you have a space that's ready? What kinds of trees might you want to put into your orchard? If you've already started setting things up, have you already thought about how you're pruning those and what you want to do to get the best fruit off of your trees? So start thinking through some of those items. If you're going to put in berries, do you have a space available? Do you have what you need for trellising? Are you going to have berries that require trellising? What are some of the things that you're going to need to put those berries in if you haven't already? And if you have put them in, what are some things that were maybe challenges that you want to work on improving for the next year, or successes that you have that you want to build on and enhance going forward in the future? And then, of course, if you have animals or you have a desire to get animals, you could start looking at that kind of space. Do you have the barns, the fencing, all of the materials and tools that you're going to need for the animals that you're going to have on your farm? So start thinking through. Now, I would not recommend doing everything at once. You want to think what your highest priority is. If you've never done anything at all and you're planning to homestead for the first time, please do not start every single one of those areas. You do not want to be dealing with putting in a garden brand new, an orchard brand new, having animals for the first time. Take things slow and do it in increments so that it makes a little bit more sense for you and it's not too large of a task for you to be able to take on with your particular situation. Again, that's part of the planning piece. So just thinking through what it is that you want to do. And step number 3, the third thing is to prioritize. So we know that there is an endless amount of work that can be done on the homestead. It's never going to be completely finished. And if we're honest with ourselves and continuing to have that growth mindset, then we're always going to be changing or growing and doing different things. So the work is never going to be 100% done. But what you want to do is think about what's most important and then prioritize that first. So what are the big projects that you want to get done this year? What is really going to set you ahead and help you to gain some of that self-sufficiency on your homestead? Is it putting in the garden? Is that really what you want to focus on this year? And you really want to make sure that you're upping your food production. Or maybe you have an established garden, but you really want to work on improving the quality of your berries or improving the size of your berry patch or something like that. So think through, what are your priorities for the year? And then that's going to help you to see how you're going to proceed from there. Decide what you can afford to do. What big projects can you invest in? And then what do you have the time to do? And start looking at what can be done right now during the winter, the fall and winter. While you might not be able to get out on the garden beds, or you might not be able to start preparing your soil or your land for an orchard, you can start some of that planning process and make sure that you have in place what you need so that when the time is right, you're not caught off guard and you're able to go ahead and smoothly move into getting those things established in your homestead. Now is a great opportunity to do some of that learning piece that when you're in the heart of planting and harvesting and going through the summer, that busy time of year, you just don't have time for that at that particular point. So use your time wisely right now. I hope that these 3 ideas for bringing things into perspective can help you to regain a little bit of motivation and can help you to just change your perspective and really look at what's important and what you have control over. No matter where you're starting and what it is that you're working on, you can find something that will help to move you forward in the direction that you want to go. The choices that you make right now on your homestead are the most important thing and are going to be the things that move you forward and help you to progress to be living the sustainable lifestyle that you want to be living. I hope these ideas were helpful to you today, and if they were, please click that like button and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope that you'll join me next week for our edition of Homestead Coffee Talk. Until next time, bye everyone.